Hello, this is Jarvis DeBerry with NOLA.com. I'm here today to talk about the National Slave Ship Museum, which is proposed for the New Orleans riverfront. Joining me today are New Orleans City Councilwoman LaToya Cantrell of District B, Debra Morton, who is a board member for the National Slave Ship Museum, and Clifton James, who is the architect for the proposed project. Ms. Morton, I'll start with you as a board member. Tell us what this National Slave Ship Museum is and what it isn't. You know, what is it that we're proposing here?
Well, essentially what we want to do is to be able to establish and create an opportunity to identify the history of Black America, the slave trade, the emotional and physical impact that experience created for us as a people. Again, this would be a structure in which what we will do is memorialize the victims of slavery, offer as well an educational opportunity for others to be able to learn more, discover more relative to what slavery is, the impact that it had on a nation of people, as well through the opportunity that the museum would offer. We would then be able to as well also look back, be able to through we'll have a DNA component to it where people will be able to search their history. We're talking essentially about a people who can't really say where they come from. Unlike many other immigrants in the United States, they can actually trace their history. The Black American can't do that because we have not been afforded that opportunity to do it. And what's absolutely great about this opportunity for us relative to the museum is that will be the first time we will actually have a place that we can identify, a place that we can go to obtain information relative to our history, relative to our heritage, as well learn and be able to move forward, looking at ourselves differently as a people, understanding who we are as a people, and being able to see a better path forward. Once we've learned more about our history, learned about who we are, we'll be able to as well, ideally, be able to make better plans moving forward. One other thing that we want to be able to do is to celebrate all cultures of people of color, because we also recognize that our heritage is, while it is primarily invested in Africa, we as well recognize and acknowledge that there are other portions of the world, there are other continents from which people of color, were taken and brought to America. And so we want to try to capture as much as we can and to be able to, for the first time, tell the true story of slavery, tell the true story of who we are as a people.
There seems to be some concern that this is going to be a ship that sails up to Natchez and back, and that people are going to be able to get aboard this ship as some type of ride of sorts. Can you allay those concerns?
Absolutely. It's amazing, but that thought would come about, but there's absolutely no intent for there to be a ship that moves. The intent of establishing that structure, it's a part of telling the story. It's a part of the reality of how we got here, the effect, the impact of that trauma relative to that traveling by way of that ship. It's a part of the story, and it should be told. The intent of it moving, again, I'm not sure where that came about. That is nothing that's been communicated by anyone associated with the development of the museum.
Okay, Mr. James, you're the architect on the project, and you told me that you're just really in step one or phase one of about 10 or 11 phases. So this is going to be far out, but can you tell us what's next for this project?
Sure. To talk about where we are now, the first step was to develop the preliminary feasibility, which we did over several years. And the next step, which is, say, phase two, is to secure land to build this slave ship. And through the efforts of Councilwoman Cantrell and the City Council, we think we are close to securing the land. Now, the next phase of the project of this 12, 13 step process is actually telling the story, writing the script. We have to create the character of this museum. We have to give it a personality, just like individuals have personality. We have to decide what story we're going to tell in this museum. And believe me, we've got enough space, we've got enough flexibility to tell whatever story we want to tell. Now, how does that story get told? It gets told by talking to historians, nationally, internationally, by talking to museum experts, by talking to professionals, but it also gets developed by talking to the average person. The communities, not only the local community, but the national community and the international community. Locally, we intend to have community meetings all over this city, in every community, not just selected communities. And through that process, the people in this city will help us write the script. And then the design will be done based on that program, will be done around that script.
Okay.
So we're really at the beginning.
I'm going to go now to Councilwoman Cantrell. You've come out in support of this project, and last week the New Orleans City Council passed a resolution in support of it. Why is this important for you to support and for the city of New Orleans to support?
Well, I think there's no other place in this country for a national slave ship museum other than the city of New Orleans, given our unique history to that movement. You know, we were on the port, we were a stop, and we have a deep, of course, connection with the continent of Africa, and surely this being the first place for free people of color as well. But New Orleans has proven that we can be home to national museums. We've seen the transition and the real impact of the World War II Museum, and I think we've learned a lot from that. And just the number of tourists that come to our city to see that museum, we just know that with the National Slave Ship Museum, we will be an attraction. It will be an attraction. We are a destination city, and it's the best place to come to learn about this phenomenal history.
Ms. Morton, I want to end with you. One of the things we were discussing earlier, how do you make a museum that's simultaneously disturbing and attractive? I mean, that would seem to me to be the balance that this museum would have to maintain.
You're right. Well, certainly the museum will offer historical artifacts, and it will again speak to the history of how we got here, what was endured, you know, while here, as well what we hope to do by certainly compartmentalizing. The museum itself will offer you that historical perspective, but we anticipate that there will be other components or portals, as you were, to the overall structure, in that there will also be other portions of it whereby there will be the opportunity to share in our culture. I think that oftentimes people make assumptions about Black culture without really knowing. This will be an opportunity to educate and understand the connection between our current culture and our history. In addition to that, there are many aspects or components to our culture, in that just in New Orleans, you have those of us who are Creole, who claim that as such. What does that really mean? And what does it mean relative to Black people? There were there were Africans who spoke French, who were also transported, to the area of New Orleans, and we don't really understand that. This will be an opportunity to educate, to learn about that. So you will have different aspects and different components and opportunities, and they would essentially move move through phases and aspects of it. And I think that ultimately, anyone going into and ultimately coming out of it will be not only educated relative to the trauma and what we endured, but they'll also be inspired relative to where we are now and moving forward, and to then even have a structure as we anticipate the National Slave Ship Museum will be. It will be something that we certainly will take pride in and as well learn from.
Okay, well, I thank you all for being here, and as we get closer to it being a reality, I hope you will join us again.
Thank you.
But thank you. This is Jarvis DeBerry with NOLA.com. Thank you for joining us.